I've collected every single banned episode of The Simpsons, and now have my dirty myths on some of the most reviled yet hilarious animation in cartoon history, and what could go wrong. Let's kick things off with one of the most famous banned episodes in the history of The Simpsons. The Simpsons go international once again, but this time they manage to upset an entire country. 30 Minutes Over Tokyo, the season 10 finale, sees the family visiting Japan, only to land themselves in absurd situations involving sumo wrestling, karaoke, and even a parody of Japanese game shows. Sounds fun, right? Well, not for everyone. Homer battling a sumo wrestler? Hilarious. Marge losing their savings because she packed them in a fanny pack? Peak chaos. But the real kicker? The family participating in a deadly game show just to get tickets home. I mean, only The Simpsons can turn financial despair into slapstick comedy. Despite its comedic tone, 30 Minutes Over Tokyo faced backlash in Japan for its over-the-top stereotypes. Japanese broadcasters were quick to pull the episode, citing its portrayal of their culture as offensive.
Yay! The Simpsons are going to Japan!
Hey, watch the gong, jerk.
How far is too far? While The Simpsons thrives on poking fun at everyone, episodes like this remind us that cultural sensitivity isn't always universal. Still, it's hard not to laugh at Homer's clueless antics. Next up, an episode that went from comedic gold to cultural taboo overnight. The City of New York versus Homer Simpson. This season 9 gem sees the Simpsons travel to the Big Apple, with hilarious moments like Homer getting his car booted at the World Trade Center. But after the tragic events of September 11, 2001, this episode hit way too close to home. Let's be real. Homer's feud with a parking officer at the Twin Towers might have been funny in the 90s, but post 9/11? Yeah, not so much. Suddenly, watching him chug crab juice to survive seemed inappropriate. Following the attacks, this episode was pulled from syndication, and fans were divided. Some felt it was an overreaction, while others argued that comedy has its limits, especially when dealing with real-world tragedies. However, as time passed, the episode quietly returned to streaming services, albeit with some edits to tone down its Twin Towers focus. Now, let's turn the spotlight on A Streetcar Named Marge, a season 4 episode that landed in hot water not for its humor, but for its biting satire. The plot revolves around Marge, which hilariously reimagines Tennessee Williams' iconic play. But the real controversy, the way the episode skewered New Orleans. The episode opens with a scathing song about New Orleans, describing it as a home of pirates, drunks, and whores. And let's be honest, when The Simpsons throw shade, they go all in. Predictably, the city of New Orleans didn't find the jokes funny. After the episode aired, protests erupted, and the showrunners faced significant backlash for the harsh portrayal. Although the creators later apologized, the damage was done, and the episode became a sore spot for fans in Louisiana. A Streetcar Named Marge raises an interesting question. Is satire justifiable if it alienates real communities? The episode is a classic example of The Simpsons pushing boundaries, and sometimes crossing them. While it's beloved for its clever writing, its legacy is complicated by the controversy it left in its wake. Now, let's talk about Homer's Phobia, an episode that tackled LGBTQ+ representation back in 1997, long before it was mainstream. In this episode, Homer befriends John, a flamboyant collectibles shop owner voiced by the legendary John Waters. But when Homer realizes John is gay, his behavior takes a turn for the homophobic, leading to some hilariously awkward and cringeworthy moments.
Doesn't!
Homer, listen carefully.
John is a
Right?
sexual.
Only Homer Simpson could take toxic masculinity and turn it into a sitcom plot. I mean, the guy literally tries to make Bart manlier by exposing him to guns and steel mills. It doesn't go well. Season 10's When You Dish Upon a Star is best remembered for its celebrity cameos, featuring Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger as themselves. The plot sees Homer becoming their personal assistant after discovering they've moved to Springfield to escape Hollywood. Sounds harmless, right? Well, not exactly. Homer as a celebrity assistant is a disaster waiting to happen. From accidentally leaking their location to Springfield's residents to his absurd attempts at becoming a celebrity himself, it's peak Homer chaos.
You want to hear?
All right, I'm gonna let you guys in on something, but you got to keep it much more secret than I
But what
did.
really sets this episode apart is its bold critique of celebrity culture. In some regions, this episode was pulled due to its portrayal of the entertainment industry. Certain countries felt it cast celebrities, and Hollywood in general, in an unflattering light, leading to its removal from airwaves. When You Dish Upon a Star is a satirical goldmine. It pokes fun at the absurdity of fame and reminds us that even Springfield isn't immune to Hollywood's influence. Love it or hate it, this episode holds a mirror to our obsession with celebrity culture, and Homer's relentless pursuit of attention is as hilarious as it is tragic. Simpsons Safari is one of those episodes that makes you go, wait, how did we end up here? In this Season 12 adventure, the Simpsons win a trip to Africa, where they encounter a corrupt diamond mine, wild animals, and bizarrely, a chimpanzee workforce. Yes, really. Picture this: Homer fighting a hippo, Marge turning into a jungle queen, and Bart, well, being Bart.
No, you have it inside out. There.
It's like Indiana Jones on steroids, but with way more chaos. And let's not forget the classic moment where Homer tries to bribe customs officers with candy bars. Unsurprisingly, the episode faced backlash for its depiction of Africa. Critics argued that it perpetuated outdated stereotypes and failed to represent the continent accurately. As a result, it was pulled from circulation in several countries. Simpsons Safari is a case study in how satire can sometimes miss the mark. While the episode's intent was comedic, its execution left much to be desired, making it one of the show's most controversial entries. Still, you can't deny the sheer absurdity of Homer's jungle antics. Finally, let's revisit one of the earliest banned episodes, Homer's Night Out from Season 1. The plot revolves around Bart snapping a photo of Homer dancing with a belly dancer at a bachelor party, leading to chaos at home. Leave it to Homer to turn a family crisis into a public scandal. Watching him try to make amends with Marge while being publicly shamed is peak Simpsons drama. And the moral of the story? Don't let Bart have access to a camera. Finally, we have E Pluribus Wiggum from Season 19, an episode that lampoons American politics with Ralph Wiggum accidentally running for president. If that premise doesn't scream chaotic brilliance, I don't know what does. Ralph's campaign slogan? Pick me, I'm the dumb one. Honestly, not far off from some real-life political platforms. Watching Springfield rally behind Ralph is both hilarious and terrifying, because let's face it, it hits too close to home. The episode was criticized in several countries for its harsh critique of democracy. Some argued it trivialized the voting process, while others found its political satire too pointed for comfort. Certain networks even refused to air it during election seasons, fearing it would influence viewers. E pluribus vigum is satire at its sharpest, using Springfield's absurdity to hold up a mirror to our own political systems. It's both a cautionary tale and a comedic masterpiece, proving once again that Ralph Wiggum is the hero we didn't know we needed or deserved. The Simpsons loves to travel, whether it's Homer ruining Australia or Bart wreaking havoc in France. But when the family landed in Brazil for the season 13 episode, Blame It on Lisa, things got complicated. The plot follows Lisa as she searches for a boy she sponsors in Brazil, only to discover he's gone missing. What follows is a wild adventure involving kidnapping, corrupt officials,
So want me to find a little boy?
That's right.
I don't think there is a boy or a husband. I think you have a thing for me.
and a dancing Homer in tight Speedos. Yes, you heard that right. Let's just say, if Brazil had a national roast, this episode would be the main course. From its portrayal of rampant crime to the over-the-top stereotypes, it's no wonder Brazilians weren't exactly laughing. After the episode aired, the Brazilian Tourism Board threatened to sue, claiming the show damaged their country's reputation. The creators eventually apologized, but the damage was done, and the episode was banned in Brazil. Here's the thing. Satire is a tricky beast. When does it cross the line from comedy to cultural insensitivity?
Excuse me, Americans!
How did you know?
Blame It on Lisa is a prime example of how humor doesn't always translate, and it's a reminder that even Springfield's finest can step on toes. Stark Raving Dad. This Season 3 classic features none other than the king of pop himself, or at least his voice. Michael Jackson lends his unmistakable vocal talents to a mental institution patient named Leon Kompowski, who befriends Homer and sings the now iconic birthday song for Lisa. Sounds harmless, right? But here's where things get sticky. In 2019, following the release of the explosive documentary Leaving Neverland, which detailed disturbing allegations against Jackson, this episode was yanked from circulation faster than Bart can say, "Ay, caramba." The showrunners felt it was no longer appropriate to celebrate Jackson's legacy, and the episode vanished from streaming platforms and reruns. Should we erase history or let viewers decide? What do you think? Comment below. So, what do you think? Were these episodes just bold humor, or they really crossed limits? Let me know in the comments. And if you're a true Simpson fan, subscribe to us now.
These are 10 episodes that show the worst things Bart Simpson has ever done, and trust me, some of these will leave you shocked. Starting with number 10, stealing the head of Jebediah Springfield.
Watch this, Lise.
What starts as a simple dare turns into one of Bart's most infamous stunts.
Show a little respect, you insolent little thugs.
We're really scared.
Hey! Hey!
But here's the twist. This wasn't just a prank. The statue represented Springfield's history and pride.
Closer.
Now you're the most hated boy in town.
Bart may be a prankster, but this moment shows us his struggle to fit in. Beneath the chaos, he's just a kid desperate for
Hey,
acceptance.
Bart, where you going? To my room. Why don't you watch Krusty the Clown?
Number 9 is ruining the family Christmas. What could be worse than ruining Christmas for your family? How about lying about it? In Miracle on Evergreen Terrace, Bart burns the family Christmas tree and then blames a made-up burglar for the disaster. At first, the town rallies behind the Simpsons, donating money and gifts. But as Bart's lie grows, so does the fallout. When the truth comes out, the Simpsons face public shame and lose the town's trust. This wasn't just about losing presents, it was about the consequences of dishonesty. And for Bart, it's a painful reminder that lies always catch up with you. Number 8, pretending to be a boy. trapped in a well. Bart's creativity knows no bounds. And neither does his audacity. In Radio Bart, he tricks the entire town into believing a boy named Timmy O'Toole is trapped in a well.
Timmy, where are your parents?
At first, it's all fun and games, but as the prank spirals, even celebrities like Sting join the rescue effort. The media eats it up, turning Timmy O'Toole into a sensation. But when Bart accidentally drops the microphone into the well, his secret is exposed. This isn't just a prank gone wrong. It's a brilliant satire of media sensationalism. Bart may have outsmarted Springfield, but in the end, he's the one who pays the price.
What did I do to deserve this? Help! Help! I fell down the well!
Number 7. Infecting Australia with bullfrogs. What starts as a simple prank call about toilet flushing directions spirals into a full-blown international disaster in Bart vs. Australia. Bart humiliates an Australian government official, and the Simpsons are summoned to Australia to apologize. But instead of keeping a low profile, Bart smuggles a bullfrog into the country, setting off a chain of events that leads to ecological devastation. Bart Sitt's thoughtless act is a perfect parody of real-world invasive species problems. It sets funny, sure, but it also highlights the dangers of cultural ignorance and the consequences of not thinking ahead. Bart's behavior here isn't just rebellious, it's destructive on a global scale.
Look! Those frogs are eating all their crops!
And yet, his unapologetic attitude somehow makes him one of the most enduring characters in TV history. Number 6. Nearly killing Martin Prince. In Dial N for Nerder, Bart's usual pranks take a much darker turn. A harmless joke with Lisa accidentally results in Martin Prince falling off a cliff. Believing Martin is dead, Bart spends the rest of the episode in a spiral of guilt and fear. For once, the stakes are real, and Bart is faced with a genuine moral dilemma. The tension between Bart and Lisa is palpable as they argue over what to do next. It's a rare moment of vulnerability for Bart, showing that even he can be overwhelmed by the consequences of his actions. Number 5. Raging against the school system. Bart has always had a rocky relationship with school, but in Bart Gets an F, he takes his rebellion to a whole new level. When faced with the possibility of failing, Bart doesn't buckle down. He lashes out. His frustration with authority and his parents' expectations boils over, leading to a classic Bart meltdown. This episode captures Bart's defiance and his refusal to accept responsibility. It's a cycle we've seen before: rebellion, failure, and ultimately, no real growth. He scrapes by in the end, but the message is clear: Bart's refusal to grow up might be his biggest obstacle of all. Number 4. Breaking Lisa's heart. Sibling rivalry is one thing, but in The Last Temptation of Homer, Bart takes it too far. When Lisa gets the opportunity to shine in a high-level competition, Bart sabotages her confidence.
How could you? The governor is crying.
This isn't just a prank, it's emotional manipulation. Bart's jealousy and selfishness hit a new low, hurting someone who truly admires him. It's a harsh reminder that Bart's actions often have the deepest impact on those closest to him. And we're only halfway through Bart's worst moments. Stay tuned for even more shocking stories as we continue counting down the most outrageous acts of Springfield's favorite troublemaker. Bart's worst actions often involve the people closest to him, and in Bart's Friend Falls in Love, his target is none other than his best friend, Milhouse. When Milhouse falls for Samantha, Bart sees their relationship as a threat. Fueled by jealousy, he manipulates Milhouse into doubting himself and Samantha. planting seeds of insecurity to break them apart. This isn't just Bart being mischievous, it's a calculated move to maintain control over his friendship. His actions here reveal a toxic side that is willing to hurt even those he loves to protect his ego. But in the end, Bart learns a lesson about loyalty, but it's a reminder of how his need for dominance can push him to emotionally damaging extremes. Now, if you think this one was really bad, wait for the next one. Number 2. Vandalizing the whole town. In Homer the Vigilante, while the rest of Springfield rallies to fight crime, Bart seizes the chaos to wreak havoc on the town itself. This isn't just mischief, it's full-scale vandalism. From graffiti to broken property, Bart turns Springfield into his playground of destruction, using the town's turmoil as cover for his reckless behavior. What makes this moment so outrageous is Bart's total disregard for his hometown. While Homer's actions are comedic and misguided, Bart's vandalism leaves real damage in its wake, showing how his short-sightedness can spiral out of control. It's chaos without consequence, a hallmark of Bart's most destructive tendencies. Number 1. The subversive prank. Bart's knack for trouble takes center stage in Bart vs. Itchy and Scratchy Land, where he turns a fun family outing into complete anarchy. This time, Bart's prank isn't just for laughs. It's a rebellion against the corporate greed behind the park. His chaos feels like a twisted statement against over-commercialization, but the destruction puts everyone, including his own family, at risk. This episode brilliantly satirizes theme park culture, but Bart's actions raise a deeper question. Is he aware of the havoc he creates, or does he simply revel in the chaos without considering the aftermath? And there you have it, Bart Simpson's worst moments of all time. From breaking hearts to breaking towns, Bart proves why he's Springfield's ultimate troublemaker. Which of these moments shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you're a true Simpson fan, subscribe us now.
Simpson saddest moments. Here are the most saddest moments in the history of The Simpsons that made people sob. Mother Simpson. Season 7, Episode 8. In this episode, Homer pulls off one of his most outrageous stunts yet. He fakes his own death to avoid doing community service. The story begins with Homer being frustrated about being forced to participate in a mandatory cleanup event at the Springfield nuclear power plant. To avoid the chore, he creates a plan to fake his death. He stages a dramatic moment using a dummy. Homer throws the dummy off a cliff into a river, making it look like his body was swept away. This act is witnessed by some onlookers who believe it to be a tragic accident. As news of Homer's death spreads, Springfield reacts with sorrow and mourning. Meanwhile, Homer, completely oblivious to the chaos he has caused, enjoys his unexpected day off, lounging at home and relaxing without a care in the world. Well, this episode takes an interesting turn when the news of Homer's death eventually reaches someone very unexpected, his long-lost mother, Mona Simpson. Mona, who had disappeared from Homer's life when he was a young boy, learns about her son's supposed passing and decides to return to Springfield to pay her respects. When she meets Homer, the two share a heartwarming and emotional reunion. Mona explains that she had been in hiding for decades due to her involvement in activist movements. Specifically, she had sabotaged a germ warfare lab owned by Mr. Burns, which made her a fugitive from the law. To protect her family, she had no choice but to leave, even though it broke her heart. Homer, who had believed his mother was dead all these years, is overwhelmed with joy to have her back. However, he also feels conflicted, unsure if Mona truly loves him or abandoned him willingly. Mona reassures him that her love for him never wavered, and that leaving was the hardest thing she had ever done. She recounts how she kept tabs on him from afar and always carried guilt for being absent from his life. The episode takes a bittersweet turn as Homer and Mona bond throughout the day, making up for lost time. They share laughs and memories, and for the first time in years, Homer feels truly loved by his mother. However, their happiness is short-lived because here comes the gut punch. Mona's past is still chasing her, and staying with Homer puts them both in danger. She has no choice but to leave again. This time, it's not because she wants to, but because she has to. Watching her say goodbye is heartbreaking. You can see it in her eyes. She's trying to be strong, but the weight of leaving her son again is crushing her. And then there's Homer. That final scene of him sitting alone under the stars, staring into the night, is devastating. He doesn't say a word, but his silence speaks volumes. He's not moving, barely even breathing, as if he's frozen in that moment, hoping against all odds that she'll come back. It's such a stark contrast to the joy he felt just moments earlier. One second, he had his mom back, and the next, he's left with nothing but the memory of her and an emptiness that feels impossible to fill. Goodbye, Mona. We'll miss you. And hey, if Netflix ever picks up your story, we'll be the first in line to watch. Maggie Makes 3, Season 6, Episode 13.
Marge is pregnant? No!
It's one of those episodes that hits you right in the soul.
Yes! With my bills paid off, I can finally quit this lousy job.
Homer finally quits his soul-crushing job at the power plant and lands a gig working at a bowling alley.
Paradise.
Honestly, Homer's dreams are so low, I'd trip over them. For Homer, this is pure bliss. No deadlines, no nuclear safety protocols, just pins to knock down and donuts to devour. It's simple, but it's perfect. But life has other plans. When Marge announces she's pregnant with Maggie,
Oh, you're pregnant!
Homer's world turns upside down. He's ecstatic at first, but the realization soon dawns on him. Another baby means more expenses, and dreams don't pay the bills.
Doomed, I told you! Ah! No!
So with a heavy heart, he returns to the power plant. The look of defeat on his face as he walks back into Mr. Burns' office is enough to make anyone tear up. And then, in the ending, we see Homer sitting at his desk, surrounded by Maggie's baby pictures. But he hasn't just stuck them on the wall randomly. He's used them to transform the demoralizing "Don't forget, you're here forever" plaque into "Do it for her." I mean, how many dads out there would actually do this? Most would use the baby pictures to hide unpaid bills. Homer's sacrifice is so powerful, it makes you forget the guy chokes his own son for fun. Classic parenting. 3. Lisa's Substitute. Season 2, Episode 19. Lisa has always been the emotional core of The Simpsons, and Lisa's substitute is a prime example. When her regular teacher falls ill, Lisa bonds with her substitute, Mr. Bergstrom. He's everything Lisa admires: intelligent, kind, and supportive. The heartbreaking moment comes when Mr. Bergstrom has to leave town. As Lisa says her tearful goodbye at the train station, he hands her a note that simply says, "You are Lisa Simpson." Those 4 words carry so much weight. They remind Lisa of her self-worth and her unique brilliance, even in a world where she often feels out of place. Also, let's be real, this is the only good train station scene in history. Every other one involves someone running after a train, crying, while the conductor sits there like, "Man, this ain't The Notebook, move it along." 4. One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish, Bluefish. Season 2, Episode 11. In One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish, Bluefish, Homer faces his own mortality. After eating a potentially poisonous piece of fugu at a sushi restaurant, Homer is told he has only 24 hours to live. The episode takes us through Homer's emotional journey as he tries to make the most of his final day. He makes a bucket list so sad, even a sloth would accomplish more. Imagine thinking, "This is it, I'm going to die," and then wasting your last hours by listening to a Bible tape instead of, I don't know, robbing a bank or flipping off your boss. Of course, he survives in the end, but the episode leaves us with a deep appreciation for life's fleeting moments. And here we are with Bart Gets an F, where we finally see Bart trying, really trying, not to suck at life, and failing spectacularly anyway. This episode hits close to home for anyone who's ever been told they're not living up to their potential. In other words, every single one of us who has ever stared blankly at a test paper like it's written in ancient hieroglyphics. Bart, the eternal class clown, realizes he might actually have to repeat the fourth grade. Can you imagine having to redo a grade where making macaroni art is considered an achievement? Ouch. Imagine being so bad at school that even the fourth grade, a place where macaroni art counts as a skill, is too advanced for you. Desperate, he prays for a snow day, which is honestly the most religious he's ever been in his life. Studying, praying, and sweating like he just ran a marathon. He still fails. Honestly, it's like life said, "Good try, Bart, now back to being Springfield's favorite screw-up." The breaking point comes when Bart breaks down sobbing, admitting he feels like a failure. It's raw, it's real, and it's heartbreaking. If I were a writer for The Simpsons, I'd keep it funny. Instead of Bart crying, he'd fake a genius moment by turning his failed test into an abstract art project. Skinner, thinking Bart is a misunderstood artist, praises him until Lisa exposes the truth. Bart ends up in detention, but not before he quips, "Guess I'm just too smart for you simpletons."
Kiss the teacher!
The chalkboard gag has always been a source of lighthearted humor, a tiny moment of Bart flexing his rebel streak. But in this tribute to Mrs. Krabappel, the usual laughs were replaced with pure gut-punch sadness. For once, Bart wasn't cracking jokes or pretending to be cool. Instead, he was standing there, writing his sorrow on the chalkboard, while we all sat there crying into our snacks. This moment wasn't just about honoring Edna Krabappel's character. It was a reminder that some voids just can't be filled. Bart's usual chaotic energy was replaced by an unspoken grief so heavy, you could practically hear the sound of Springfield collectively sobbing. And let's not forget, Bart and Mrs. Krabappel butted heads more often than an aggressive game of dodgeball, but their bond was undeniable. She saw potential in Bart, even when no one else, including his own family, did. This farewell wasn't just emotional, it was brutal. It's like they ripped our hearts out, stuffed them with chalk dust, and left us to deal with the emotional mess. Thanks, The Simpsons. Santa's Little Helper Runs Away, Season 3, Episode 19, Dog of Death. This episode sets the stage for an emotional journey centered on the family's beloved pet, Santa's Little Helper. As the episode opens, Springfield is abuzz with excitement about a massive lottery jackpot. The Simpsons family, like everyone else, becomes obsessed with the prospect of winning. Amid this lottery frenzy, Santa's Little Helper begins showing signs of illness. He becomes lethargic and loses his energy, worrying the family. They take him to the vet, where they receive the devastating news. Santa's Little Helper has a twisted stomach, a condition that requires an expensive surgery costing $750. The Simpsons, who are already struggling financially, face a heartbreaking dilemma: how to afford the surgery for their beloved dog. But the family decides to make significant sacrifices to save Santa's Little Helper. Homer gives up his beloved beer, Marge sacrifices her weekly lottery tickets, Bart lets go of his comic books, and Lisa even forgoes purchasing new saxophone reeds. Their willingness to compromise highlights just how much they love their dog. The surgery is a success, and Santa's Little Helper recovers, but the financial strain leaves the family bitter and resentful. They begin to take their frustrations out on the dog, blaming him for their hardships. Feeling unloved and unwanted, Santa's Little Helper becomes dejected and eventually runs away from home. Lost and alone, he wanders the streets of Springfield, encountering a series of challenges. Meanwhile, the Simpsons quickly realize how much they miss him. Despite their earlier frustrations, they deeply regret their behavior and begin searching for him, hoping to bring him back home. The episode concludes on a heartwarming note, as the Simpsons welcome Santa's Little Helper back into their lives. They learn to appreciate the unconditional love their dog provides and vow to treat him better. 8. Bleeding Gums, Murphy's Goodbye, Season 6, Episode 22, Round Springfield. Lisa's jazz mentor, Bleeding Gums Murphy, was the one person in Springfield who actually encouraged her dreams instead of telling her to tone it down. So, of course, the Simpsons decided to kill him off, because why not crush Lisa's spirit completely? When Lisa finds out Murphy has passed, it's not just the loss of a friend, it's the death of one of the few people who saw her for who she really was. If that's not depressing enough, Bart uses his lawsuit money to buy Murphy's album so Lisa can hear it on the radio. And while that's a sweet gesture, it's Bart we're talking about. You know he'd rather spend that money on fireworks or revenge pranks if Lisa weren't already crying her little heart out. This episode is like the perfect jazz solo, beautiful, emotional, and painful in all the right ways. Except instead of snapping your fingers in appreciation, you're using them to wipe away tears. 9. Barney's Film, Season 6, Episode 18, A Star is Burns. Barney Gumble, the guy who's more beer keg than human, surprises everyone by submitting an artistic, self-aware film for the Springfield Film Festival. For once, we see a glimpse of the man Barney could have been, talented, thoughtful, and deeply vulnerable. And then you remember this is Barney, the guy whose Ivy League dreams got drowned in a tsunami of Duff beer, thanks to Homer handing him his first drink. Watching Barney's film is bittersweet. It's like finding out your slacker friend has the potential to cure cancer, but instead decides to become a professional TikToker. His talent shines for all of 5 minutes before it's buried under Springfield's perpetual mediocrity. Barney goes back to being the town drunk, and we go back to wondering why The Simpsons loves breaking our hearts. And there you have it, some of the saddest episodes of The Simpsons that hit harder than the realization that taxes are forever. Which episode wrecked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. If you don't, Santa's little helper will run away again. And this time, it's your fault.